Coming up on American Black Journal, there is a new book out about the life and legacy of the late Congressman and civil rights icon John Conyers Jr. It's written by his son, and he's our guest today. Plus, we'll hear about how the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History is celebrating Juneteenth. Don't go anywhere. American Black Journal starts right now.
From Delta faucets to Behr paint, Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support also provided by the Cynthia and Elsa Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit PBS.
The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit PBS. Through our giving, we are committed to meeting the needs of the communities we serve statewide to help ensure a bright and thriving future for all. Learn more at dtefoundation.com.
Also brought to you by Nissan Foundation. And viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson, your host. The life and legacy of the late Michigan Congressman John Conyers Jr. is the subject of a new book that was written by his son, John Conyers III. It's titled My Father's House, an ode to America's longest-serving Black congressman. In the book, John shares his memories of growing up as the son of one of the country's most iconic civil rights leaders. He also delves into politics and leadership today. In 2025, I'm pleased to welcome John Conyers III to American Black Journal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. I greatly appreciate it.
So I'm really intrigued by the idea of writing this book. Anyone writing about their parents, I think, faces an enormous number of hurdles and challenges in terms of how to tell that story, why to tell that story, and just even where to start. But for you, that takes on an added dimension of difficulty, I think, because
Certainly.
of who your dad was, who he was not just to you, but who he was to this city and to the country. So let's start there. Let's start with the idea of this book. What brought you to this moment where you felt like this was a story you needed to tell?
Well, I did not want to write a book about my father. That's not how it came to be. It came into being. He started working on a book, and in the process of us working on that book and basically being near the goal line to getting a book deal and all the things, he passed away. And so after he passed away, it really turned into, well, if you want this story to be told, and I think it is important that Black people tell their own stories.
Yeah.
And we get to dictate the direction in which a legacy goes and all those things. My agent said to me, if you want the story to be told, you are going to have to write the book.
Yeah.
And so we use a lot of material, or I used, repurposed a lot of material from, what my father had begun, and then figured out how we contextualized. I figured out how we contextualize him kind of after that and what stories were important. And then obviously I understand what my politics are and who I am separate and apart from my father and how he shaped who I am. And so that became like what we have now.
So now that the book is done, do you feel like it is primarily personal take on your dad, or is it a mix of that and the sort of external view of him as well?
So I think the purpose for me, at least with the book, number one, I try to be as objective as possible, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that is a tenet and core pillar of my life is like accountability, right? And so when I was examining not only my father, myself, and whomever else in this work, it was important for me to be as objective as possible so that, the bias that people think that this book would be written
Sure,
with could kind of be removed. I tried to focus on his career in things that occurred that he was present for and situate him, rightfully so, and as he was, at some of the most seminal moments of this country's history, from being the first person to introduce articles of impeachment on President Nixon, to being the author of the MLK holiday, being the father of the Medicare for All movement, right? Like, these are the things that are factual, and I just tried to bring them to the forefront for folks to understand that, you know, a black person, a black man is who started this fight.
Yeah. I mean, just having you rattle off those few things, I mean, there were so many things that he did that were either firsts or significant for other reasons. I'm really curious for you, as his son, which things for you stand out about him in terms of his public persona, the things that he did that you think most identify him for sort of what he believed and what he wanted to do?
Well, I think those are two different things. I think what stands out to me is Medicare for All and probably reparations. I think that, again, part of writing this book, I think the folks that have carried on the work that my father started have largely removed him from that narrative. And so it was important for me to write this book to reintroduce him to those things, whether that's reparations or Medicare for All.
You feel like he's been being erased from those narratives?
100%, right? I think that
I hear his name a lot.
I don't hear, when you talk about Medicare for All, I don't hear John Conyers. I hear Bernie Sanders. I hear AOC. Right. And I was present when Bernie, you know, it was actually at Fellowship Chapel where Bernie and my father had a conversation about, you know, hey, you know, John, I think I'm going to really lead into the Medicare for All thing. So I think it's important that, like, I'm grateful to Bernie for carrying it. It's very important work. But 22 years ago, my father is the person before Bernie
who said, hey,
he introduced the bill. And I think it is important that, like, while Bernie is carrying that mantle and AOC she's carrying that mantle, we don't forget the person who is responsible, and the literal framework for that was a black man from Detroit. And then when we talk about reparations, very grateful to Ayanna Pressley, grateful to Erica Lee Carter and Sheila Jackson Lee for carrying on the torch. But for 22 straight years, John Conyers introduced that legislation every year, right? And so I think to not have him be a part of that conversation consistently, I think it does a disservice to the work.
Let's talk about now, and you know, not just what your father's work means to those movements now, but what it means to you. I mean, as you point out, you're someone with your own politics and beliefs.
I mean, above my politics, what my father's work signifies to me, and I hope signifies to so many other folks, is that, you know, the work you do, you may not get to see the fruits of it, right? But you have to lay the foundation for someone. If we're talking about people picking up the mantle and carrying the torch, even though they're not necessarily speaking about my father, the foundation was laid for them to carry that work on. And I think it is vitally important that we pick up, or we do work that we may not be here to see the fruits of, right? Because that is work that needs to be done regardless. And so, you know, that's kind of where I land on what is important, or what my takeaways are from my father's work.
What would your dad think about, and this may be an unfair question, what would your dad think about where we are right now? I mean, we are at such a crossroads, I think, not just in terms of policy issues, not just in terms of race, but in terms of the very foundation of what makes us a nation. And I'm not sure that everyone believes that we're going to be a nation, at least in the same way, in the future. I think about the things that your dad had to fight so hard to change people's minds about, or get them to consider. What would he think of this moment, and what would he be called to, I guess, in this moment?
Well, he wrote an article about Donald Trump when he was in office, when he's served. So there we know
what he thought of.
I know what we know what my dad thought.
But I think it's bigger than Trump. I think this is about us as Americans.
Well, I mean, when you say, you know, the country may not be the same, I think obviously the country's not the same as it was 10 years ago or 20 or 30 years ago. So I think change, and one thing my father taught me, is like change is a constant.
Yeah.
It's always going to happen. I think that we get to decide, we have elections coming up this year. We have elections next year. We get to decide the direction that the country's going to go in. I hope that there are people that learn from, what has transpired in the 6 months since President Trump has taken office. And so I think it's really important that folks get engaged. I think that would be my father's thing. And then the other thing is, we're looking at the rule of law and so much that's happened. My father encouraged every person that he came in contact with to go to law school. Yeah. And so I think, we need more folks that are going to uphold the law and understand the law and fight for the rule of law.
I know for sure he would be very proud of what you're doing.
I appreciate you saying that.
Of the book. What do you hope people who maybe don't know your dad that well, or don't know his legacy that well, might pick the book up, read it? What would you want them to take from it?
What I would want people to take away from the book, and one of the things that I talk about consistently, is that, like, as a Black man or a Black person in America, we have a right to take up space in this country at the highest levels. And when you get to those spaces, it is incumbent upon you to take up space and speak up on behalf of folks that look like you, that come from where you come from, and as much as you possibly can, come out on the right side of history. I think that is what I hope their takeaway is. And then the final thing, when we talk about my politics, is understanding that, like, we have the ability to shape this country. The book is about a guy who did that. Right. And so we need more folks that are willing to step into that space and take up space and change and shape the direction of this country.
Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for joining us on American Black Journal.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Up next, we're going to talk about the Wright Museum's Juneteenth celebration. But first, we've reached into our archives for this clip from a 2000 episode of American Black Journal, and it features John Conyers Jr.
H.R. 40, where does it stand now, and what kind of substantive, progressive dialogue is it really generating?
The whole concept of reparations always gives my subject matter, H.R. 40, a boost when it's used in a modern context. When, as recently, those in the Holocaust who were forced to work in the plants, the German plants, some automobile plants even, there were reparations that were negotiated out. As a matter of fact, some of our government officials played a very key role, Mr. Eisenstadt, in negotiating this out. And so the whole question of what about the cruelest, longest, most punitive Holocaust of all time, the period of African enslavement in this country. And there we get into a non-dialogue, silence. And what I've tried to do is determine what would be the best strategy to raise this up. In Washington, we debate everything, the furthest reaches of the cosmos, the tiny microbacteria in the water. We hypothesize to and fro.
This is the 5th year that Juneteenth will be celebrated across the nation as a federal holiday. It was June 19th, 1865, when the last group of enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, finally learned that they were free, more than 2 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. The Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History is commemorating Juneteenth with a variety of activities that celebrate Black history, Black culture, and community. Here to tell us more is Lance Wheeler. He is the museum's Vice President of Learning and Engagement. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you. How you doing?
Hard to believe this is the 5th anniversary. It seems like this is a more recent thing. And I think part of the reason that's true is that when I talk to people about Juneteenth, I still get surprise from some folks that it is a a federal holiday. And then beyond that, there are still people who ask me, well, what is that? What is Juneteenth? Well, mostly not people in our community, but people from the outside. And I think part of the point of this is getting everyone to understand the significance of this and why we pause every year on this day to think about it.
Yeah, and I think for me that the significance behind Juneteenth isn't just remembering the enslaved people in Galveston, Texas found out about it. It's now freedom.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Right.
What do we do as Black Americans to now grasp something that's new to us and experiencing that, right? And so for me, Juneteenth is a moment to reflect of who we are, where we come from, but also where are we going. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's a great way to think about it. So talk about how that reflects in the things that the museum does every year.
Yeah. So we were intentional. Well, every year we do that through our programs and our exhibitions, right? But particularly for Juneteenth coming up through our public programs, we are doing a art and healing activity where we are painting individuals or a Juneteenth flag, right, to pay homage to where we came from. We are also having a video screening of the Catilda, which was the last American slave ship, following up with a panel discussion with Jamon Jordan, the city's historian, having conversations with descendants from the Catilda to really talk about what freedom is. What does that truly mean to be a descendant from a former enslaved person, right? And then we're going to really wrap up the evening with a musical performance, right? Because with celebration as Black people, we sing, we dance, right? We have a good time. And so we're really running our activities from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night. It's an all-day event, and it's free.
And it's free, right? I mean, it has been free each year, and that's important to kind of welcome everybody in who's interested. You're fairly new here and at the museum. Tell me how important this day and this celebration is at the museum, and why the Wright is the right place for us to do this.
I will say that the museum's been around. We're really celebrating our 60-year anniversary this year, right? What does that mean, right, in a Black city, right? But also important, I want to point out that before Juneteenth was a national holiday, the museum was always celebrating Juneteenth,
acknowledging it, right?
We always acknowledged it, right? We, as people and as an institution, we didn't need someone to tell us this is a national holiday. For us, it was always a celebration of freedom, remembrance, and honoring our ancestors and today. And so the museum is still going to continue to do that 60 years later down the road, whether it is a national holiday, right, still, or whether it's not. We're going to still always celebrate and honor and remember who we are.
Also, talk about this year and what I guess I would assign additional importance to for recognizing not just this day, but as you point out, the idea of freedom. We're having quite an intense, I think, debate about what freedom means and should look like in this country, and not just for African Americans, for all people.
You know, I think the word freedom can be very subjective. It means different things for different people, right? I think for me, if I had to talk about for me personally, freedom means a sense of peace, right? A sense of imagination, right? And I think the Charles H. Wright African American Museum does that, right? Dr. Wright had a vision of like, how do we create freedom? How do we create imagination? But also, how do we remember who we are and where we're going? Yeah. And so for me, that is what freedom is. Even in the complexities of this country, I think we have to take moments to remember those moments, right? And I think the museum does a fantastic job of reminding us of who we are, how we got here, and where we're going.
Yeah, yeah. That sense of peace, I think, is really key right now, because I think there are so many people who don't feel at peace because they feel like, their freedom is threatened.
Yeah, we don't know where we're going.
Or in question in a way that it wasn't before. How do we sort of settle that discussion so that everybody does feel that sense of peace?
I think for me, if we're thinking about Juneteenth, right, and we're honoring and remembering former enslaved people, right? They went through a process of a system that broke them, right? That destroyed them, that ripped families away from them. But those individuals kept moving forward, right? In the hope of one day freedom,
Right.
And transition that to individuals like Dr. King, Dr. Wright, Malcolm X, Miss Dr. Betty Shabazz, right? Looking and remembering, I do remember where we come from, right? I remember that they had held on hope, and hope was poured into me, and freedom was poured into me. And so I think for me, that's the way that we continue to do that, even in turmoil in this country, right? Is remembering the past to say, hey, if we can get through that process, we can get through this again.
Yeah, I've been saying for a while now that, for African Americans, this is not new. This period is not new. This is our continued existence. There are lots of folks joining us now, not to their own choice, but in some cases they're learning what that feels like to be in that position.
It's just new players on the board.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Right. Let's talk about the welcome that you guys kind of extend, I think, for this. I mean, it is a celebration of an event in African American history, and it is about African American freedom. But we want people who are not African American to feel like, hey, I could come and be part of this, and I could learn something.
Yeah, we're not exclusive. We want to educate everybody, right, of all ages, backgrounds. And so we welcome, we want to be in conversation, because this is not just Black American, African American history. This is American history, right? We have been part of this country for a very long time, right? And we know that in dialogue, we can't continue to tell our own story just by ourselves, right? We have to share it with people, because we are a resilient people, and country is also resilient. Right. And so we open our door, to everyone.
Yeah. We've got about a minute left, but I want to have you talk just a little about the 60th stuff that's going on.
So we have a lot of things happening this year. We do have our gala, and we will love people to come. It's to celebrate 60 years of the museum once again. And then we have a slate of activities and public programs and exhibitions happening. We do currently have an exhibition called Luminosity that's up. That's featuring Detroit artists from different periods, and it's going to be up for an entire year. So we say, come and visit, come and learn, come and share, come and laugh, and even come dance with us beyond Juneteenth at the museum for this year.
All right. Well, congratulations on all the great programming, and thanks for being here with us.
Thank you.
There are several other events taking place in Metro Detroit that celebrate Juneteenth, Independence Day. Here's a look at some of the activities this month. That's going to do it for us this week. You can find out more about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org, and you can connect with us anytime on social media. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
From Delta faucets to Behr paint, Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support also provided by the Cynthia and Elsa Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit PBS.
The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit PBS. Through our giving, we are committed to meeting the needs of the communities we serve statewide to help ensure a bright and thriving future for all. Learn more at dtefoundation.com.
Also brought to you by Nissan Foundation and viewers like you. Thank you.